the 100 to 5%. So I would start by dividing it by 10.
Now you guys raise your hand if you have a question and ask. So what do you know right now? 10% of 600 is what? 60. Okay.
And you could divide that by 2.
Why?
Because this up here has to get to this number.
Right.
So you have to find a way to get this to 5 or.
So you're trying to get from 10 to 5, so he's dividing by 2. Dominic, do you have your work?
So, 100% of 600 is 3.
Want to do one more?
Sure.
Okay, so, and I love the way that he wrote the answer to the right, because sometimes when you use a table, you don't even know what you just did. So if you could write a little sentence in your own words, then you're going to be training yourself to understand what the process was and what you just did. Okay, so if you don't have that, you guys, you should also have a sentence at the right of the table saying what your answer is. So now you're trying to find 15%, so look at what he did. He started with 100% again.
So here I divided by 10 again. To start with. And then that is 12.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm looking at, yeah.
Are you looking at the wrong thing?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Keep going. Okay, you're right, and I'm going to stop you there for a minute, but we lost your 0. But I want to show you guys, if you don't understand that, a quick way to remember that. You know, if you have 70 divided by 10, what do you get? 7, right? And if you have 80 divided by 10, what do you get?
8.
So if you have 75 divided by 10, you have to be exactly halfway in the middle, right? 7.5. So think about the numbers, not just about the decimal placement. So he's got that, and then I'm going to say, imagine you have $7.50 before he does the next step. Because what are you going to do on the next step?
I divided it by 2.
Yeah. If you divide it by 2, you can get what percent?
I got 3.75.
Right. 3.75 is 5%. Do you guys see that? Because half of $7.50 would be $3.75. So I didn't leave too much room for there. So just to skip over the next box, and you can, just ignore the line. Right. So, and what percent was that? What number goes above it? 5. Well, it's hard to be in front of the class. You're doing fine. And how did you get to 5 then?
I divided it by 2.
Right. And then you have to get to 15. So what was your method?
That I multiplied it by 3.
You could. Could be a lot of work for some people. Can anybody think of another method? Yes, Sophie. What are you going to add together?
7.5 plus 3.75.
So even though you did that, Albert, let's look at Sophie's idea. 10% plus 5% makes 15%. So if she adds together, she should get the same answer that you got. So what's $7.50 plus $3? and 75 cents. What'd you get?
I got $11.20.
Okay, yeah, which is 11. If it were money, I started talking like it's money because we're going to be talking about tips. So that would be right. So that's what goes there. Put that in. And then I think there's a few questions. So your final answer is, well, why don't we write that out? You can erase that. While he's writing that out, Asia.
That's question 3. Yeah,
On your worksheet?
Yeah, it is.
Did I pull up an old worksheet?
That's why I kept on.
Yeah. Is that why I confused you? That's okay. It's a good example though, right?
Yeah, that will be 50%.
So I just brought up an old
Is there
the
even
wrong
15%
worksheet.
of what we're talking? No, we don't. It is on there. We don't have it actually.
Different worksheet.
Oh.
That's okay. It's just a sample. I made a recording, so we have a couple samples. So who had their hand raised in the beginning that didn't? Do you understand like how to use a ratio table now?
Yeah, I was doing like if it was like 5% of 600, I would put the 5 on top and not the 100.
You always want to start with 100% in the ratio table method.
So I was trying to like get it to 1 or more, so that's like.
So 15% of 75 is, okay, let's see, one of these, like,
20% of 110 is also.
all right, let's have somebody new try that. Let's have Chloe try one. Then we'll do another one. So Chloe, that you're practicing for the first time because you struggled, right? So let's see how you do on this. So put percent in total. Don't worry about it. It looks fine. So start with 100%. What's 100% of 110?
110.
Right.
And then it would be divided by.
Don't do it in one step. What's an easy thing to do next? Look at what Albert did.
Divided by 10.
Yeah, he went to 10%. That's handy. Do you want me to move that back up?
That's okay.
Now, could you have done that with mental math now that you look at your answer?
Yeah.
But that's okay. You'll get better at that, right? So now she has 10%. 120.
Yeah. So then I would just do times 2.
Yep. That's all you would do. So your final answer is what? 20% of 110, right? Good. Jessica, you want to do 20% of 85? Is that on your worksheet? Yeah. So talk to us, Jessica.
Okay, so the percent is 100 and the total is 85. And then I know that 20 goes into 105 times, so I just divided it by 5.
Which is okay too. She didn't choose to go to 10%. It's good to see different methods. So what's the advantage of her method versus the method that I had Chloe use? What's one advantage, Sarah?
Well, she didn't have to use as much work.
Less steps.
Yeah.
What's the disadvantage, Timo?
That is like harder to divide, 85 divided by 5.
It could be harder to do the division. So if you can get the right answer both ways, it doesn't matter. You pick the way that works best for you. Dominic.
Well, I think the way that Jessica did was easier because it's like, it would be easier to divide the one that
In this case, it is, right?
like some problems it might not be as easy. Like,
Right.
But this problem would be easier because it was just 85 and you can divide that easily.
If you went from 100% to 10%, you have a decimal. But it's also really good practice for you to be able to do this with mental math. If I divide 80 by 10, I get 8. If I divide 90 by 10, I get 9. So if I divide 85 by 10, it has to be halfway. So I like them both. Because you have to, they're just, they do different skills. And then I could get to 20. How would I get to 20, Catherine, from here? Double, right? Times it by 2. And you get 17. So you still get the same answer, different way. Both ways work. Sarah? Is that on your worksheet 6?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that one. Is it a decimal answer, you guys, do you think, or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that because it's a little more practice. Let's do 6 first.
Okay, so you have to start with 100. And then 90. So I did it kind of like Jessica, so I know that 25 goes into 100 by 4. So I divided it by 4, which is 25. And then 90 times 4 is,
You mean divide?
yeah. Which is 22.5.
Okay, so did you do that in your head the first time, or did you do scratch work?
I did scratch work.
Yeah. So that's fine. It's correct. Let's talk about how we could work on the mental math piece. Thanks, Sarah. So instead of going right to 25, you don't have to be in a hurry. You could have gone to 50. Half of 90 is 45. That would be easier, wouldn't it? Even though Sarah did scratch work off the side, again, I'm trying to get you to practice mental math. So if you divide it by 2, you would get 50. And then I want to get to 25. I could divide by 2 again. And here's this thing, you guys. If I divide 40 by 2, what do I get? 20. If I divide 50 by 2, I get 25, right? So if I divide 45 by 2,
22.5.
it has to be exactly in the middle, right? 22.5. So, you can divide odd numbers in half too. You just end up with a decimal. So 22.5. And if that way didn't work for you, think of the other way we do mental math division. Divide 40 by 2. Think of 45 as 40 plus 5. Divide 40 by 2 and you get 20. Divide 5 by 2 and you get 2.5. Add them together. Could you have gone to 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's pretend it's the same problem here. And Catherine, what would be 10% of 90?
9.
9. What's 5% of 90? Yeah. Good job. What'd you do? Which is dividing by 2. And I'm trying to get 25, right? So I could multiply by 5, or I could do other things. I could get 20. What's 20, Emma? How do I get from here to there? Yep, so what's 20? Nice job. Okay, and then what if I ask Sophie how to get to 25? What are you going to do?
I would add 4.5 to 18.
What do you think, Shoda? Could that work? Not sure. What? Tell them why you would do that, Sophie.
Because when you add 20 plus 5, you get 25.
20% plus 5% is 25%. So you can add the value of 20% to the value of 5%. You could add the columns. And what's 18 and 4? 22. So 18 and 4.5 is 22.5. So the nice thing about this ratio table is that you don't all have to do the problem the same way, but you could all practice your number sense and mental math skills, which is why we want sixth graders to use ratio tables. There's a lot of little math here that's helpful, but you have to think about, your numbers the whole time, not just how to get the answer, but if the answer makes sense. Okay? We're going to practice this in your groups. Should I post you live, you guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.